Hello, my dearest friends. Welcome back to my channel, Diana and the Book Hunt. It is time to wrap up the month of March. During March, I read 15 books, but I do have to say that the first couple of books that I read are a long bingeable series with quite a few pages to them. So that's why I kind of took my time with them. I wanted to immerse myself and really enjoy the world because I fell in love with those stories. So I just really didn't want to burn myself out and took my time with them. That's why I didn't read more than what I did, but 15 books is still quite good. So I'm just going to tell you all about them, though I have to say that a couple of the books that I have on this list are books that I've also mentioned in other videos of mine. So I'm going to kind of gloss over them and focus more on the books that I didn't yet discuss. And I'm just going to go ahead and dive in with the first three books that I read at the start of March, which were the Kindred Saga books by Pen Cole. So we've got Spark of the Everflame, Glow of the Everflame, and Heat of the Everflame, which were all books that I devoured. I read the audiobooks for them and I really binged them within about a week. They're quite longish books, especially the third one. And I know that a lot of people have gripes with the third one because it's so long. But I really highly enjoyed the heck out of these books. I gave the first book 4 stars, and the second and third book I gave 5 stars. So in this fantasy romance world, we've got a heroine who lives in this realm where there are these so-called descendants. The descendants are descendants from gods who have these magical abilities, and she is one of the healers of her town, as is her mother. And her mother is actually someone who has a very prominent kind of a position as a healer. She gets invited to heal people or descendants as well, at the palace, something that humans don't typically get invited to do. So her mother is held to a high regard. And what happens at quite the start of the book, the first book, is her mother disappears. And our heroine Diem, she is grieving her mother because it's been a while since she disappeared and she doesn't know, is she alive, is she dead, what happened to her. So she desperately wants answers as to what has happened to her mother, and she is kind of suspicious of the descendants and their plans with the human people in their realm. So she is holding a bit of a grudge and she wants answers. At the same time, she is dating this human boy who he is kind of like her childhood friend. So she's dating him, and he is the kind of guy who has been roped into this rebellion against the descendants. So he is kind of trying to recruit her to be part of this rebellious group against the descendants. And the first book, we don't get very much of a romance between the heroine and the actual hero of the books, because she is in a relationship with someone else and she is trying to find answers about her mother's disappearance, and we're more so focusing on that part of the plot. But as the books continue, so books 2 and 3, we get to know the story behind her mother's disappearance, what kind of a role her mother plays in the overall setup of this world, and also the fact that Diem is not who everyone believes that she is, because she has these traits that make it appear like she may be descendant, but she actually tells everyone that she isn't a descendant. So it's very much a push and pull kind of a situation with who she is and what she is. And at the same time, she meets someone who is the love interest, who is a descendant and who is part of the royal family of their realm. And the story progresses from there. I don't want to spoil too much because there's a lot of goings on in these 3 books. And I fell in love with it. I really fell in love with the world building, with the magic systems, with the found family, with all of the different kinds of setbacks that Diem is going through, and also with the romance, obviously. So I really had a lot of fun with these 3 books. And I have to say that while I appreciate that the third book was really long, and at some points I was also kind of pushing through it to figure out what happens in the end of that book. And I do understand that everyone is having difficulties with how long this book is. At the same time, when I think about whenever you fall in love with a book and you know it's part of a series and you know that the next book is going to come out in like 2 years, I'm like, let me stay a bit longer in this world if I can. So I really appreciated actually that the third book was as long as it was. So I could stay with these characters for a bit longer. So I didn't mind that it was so long, to be quite honest, but I do understand that there's other readers who may disagree with me on that. It's just a personal feeling of mine that I really enjoyed that I got to stick with these characters for so long. So again, my overall rating is about 4.5 star when it comes to the three books combined. But honestly, the second and third book were true 5 star reads for me. I absolutely devoured them, and I'm very much looking forward to the next book next year. So if you know me, I really very much love finishing series. I don't want to be stuck somewhere in the middle and then forget the plots of different series and different characters. I just want to push through and read series in consequence and to the fullest. So the next book that I read is the third book within the Hot Shots Wildfire Firefighters series that is written by 3 different authors. I read the first and second book in January and February, and then I read the third and last book in March, and that one is called Honor by Danielle Baker. This one focuses on the superintendent at the wildfire firefighters, like firehouse. So essentially, he's the boss of all these guys, and he has a very specific kind of story that we already got foreshadowed in the other books. His father used to be the superintendent, but he passed away during one of those wildfires. So he has a lot of trauma and baggage that he carries because of what happened with his dad, and also how his family got split up because of his job. So he had vowed to himself that he's never going to be in a committed relationship. He doesn't want to put anyone through the stress of having to wait for someone when there's a chance that they may not come home. So that's his backstory. And then the heroine's backstory is she is a single mom of 2 and a baby on the way. She used to be married, but her husband got into an accident. So she is now a widow, and she is pregnant, very much pregnant with her next baby. And the two of them are neighbors. The thing is, he is always offering to help her out. He actually has always been in love with her, but because she has been married all these years, he never really showed his emotions towards her. But he always appreciated the kind of person that she is. She's also, by the way, his best friend's sister. So they have a history overall. They know of each other. He has been in love with her for a while, and he's always helping her out, always trying to make sure that she is managing with all those kids on her own. And then one night she goes into labor and he helps deliver that baby. That's where the story kind of starts with them. And they have a lot to work through, a lot of grief to work through, because she is grieving her now deceased husband. He is still grieving his dad, and he has quite a difficult job that kind of stands in the way of them being together. So it's a bit of a tough kind of a situation that they're in. And I really did love the way that, I think his name was it Xander or Xavier? It's an X name, but I'm not sure what it was. But the hero, he was just so gone for the heroine that he knew that he couldn't fight his feelings for too long. And I just really enjoyed his story the most. I think out of the three, I know that it's an unpopular opinion because this one actually has the lowest rating, but I think that I connected with him the most. And with Teddy, the heroine, as well. So I don't know, I really enjoyed this one. I gave it another 3.5 to 4 stars, and I would definitely recommend this one. It was an enjoyable read. And the next up, I read First Time Caller, which is the latest release by B.K. Borison. I fell in love with the story, I'm not gonna lie. I think that it's the cutest, swooniest kind of a romance, and I already discussed this one in length in my previous post that I did for the Friends to Lovers trope. So if you want to check out a more detailed kind of a description of my thoughts about this book, you can head over and check out my opinion over there. But essentially, this is a very cute kind of a romance inspired by When Harry Met Sally, the rom-com that was, I think, very popular in the 90s. And it is centering on a hero and heroine who meet through a phone call made to a radio station. The hero is a radio station host, and the heroine, she has a 12-year-old daughter who calls this radio station to ask for romantic advice for her mom. And her mom intercepts the call and she starts talking to the hero about her love life, essentially. And that is all on radio air, right? So it was quite a cute and fun premise. And I found that the relationship building between the two was so amazingly gradual and human and, I don't know, just wholesome. And I kind of fell in love with the fact that he's a cynic and he really doesn't believe in love very much anymore. And she kind of had forgotten to think about herself in any kind of romantic relationship kind of a way, because she is a mom first and foremost, and she really doesn't think about dating at all. But now that the kind of gates have opened and now someone is asking her about what she would like to see herself in a relationship like, she starts to dream about it. So she's kind of more of a hopeful romantic than a cynic. So the two of them have these amazing conversations, and I really highly enjoyed this romance. It's definitely worth it. I give it 5 stars. Now, I am so proud of myself because I finally read a book that has been on my TBR for such a long time. I think I've mentioned this book in all of my TBRs that I've done like in the past year or so, and I finally read it. It's Twisted Lies by Anna Huang. This book is the fourth book within her Twisted series, and I was putting this book off for such a long time. And like I mentioned, I'm the kind of person who really likes to finish series, so I didn't want to start on her Kings of Sin series before I finished this one. So I've kind of been working against myself with this one, but I finally read it and I really highly enjoyed it. This book centers on a billionaire kind of security guy. So he's the CEO of this security company and he owns a lot of properties in this big city. And he owns this building where our heroine lives, and he's kind of low-key obsessed with her, but he doesn't really have many interactions with her. He's kind of avoiding her because he doesn't want to get tempted to be with her. But at the same time, there's no avoiding her. She lives in his building and he sees her everywhere, so he's really compelled to be around her eventually. And the heroine is someone who, she's this influencer who wants to be a fashion designer, and she's from a family who have money, and they have certain expectations of her, and they really don't like that she's an influencer and someone who wants to go into fashion. They want her to be more serious about her future, so she has that working against her. She has a lot of insecurities because of that, and she also has a stalker. So, what better match can we think of than a guy who is the CEO of this billion-dollar security firm and a woman who needs security in her life? So, the two of them are a match made in heaven, and I really highly enjoyed their romance. There was a romantic suspense element to the story because of the stalking situation, and also the fact that there was some kind of sabotage going on in Christian's firm. So yeah, it was a page turner for me. I highly enjoyed it and I gave it 4 stars. Now the next book is Promise Me Sunshine by Cara Bastone. I've also discussed this one in length in my Friends to Lovers recommendation video, so you can check my thoughts in length over there. But essentially this one is a Friends to Lovers situation where the heroine starts nannying short term for the hero's niece. That's how they meet. And he has a bit of a strained relationship with his niece, so he's looking for someone who can help him connect with his niece on a deeper level. So he enlists the help of our heroine, and the heroine actually is someone who is dealing with a lot of grief because she has recently lost her best friend to cancer. So this is a more emotional and a more kind of a heavier kind of a book. I didn't expect it at the start when I picked it up because I went into it blind, but I appreciated the heck out of it. The gradual relationship development between the two characters was absolutely superb. And I fell in love with this love story. I gave it 5 stars. Now, the next book is a popular new release that I had hoped to love more than I did. I did give it 4 stars, don't get me wrong, I would still recommend it. But because the first book was such a popular and it was a hit for me also. So the first book was Unsteady by Peyton Corinne. Now, this new release is called Unloved by the same author. It just recently released in February. And I picked it up, but I just didn't connect on the same level as I did with the first book with these characters. We've got a hero, Freddie, who is part of this college hockey team. He is very good at what he does, but he is struggling heavily with ADHD, with dyslexia and dyscalculia. So he needs a lot of help with his academics. And the romance is between himself and his tutor. His tutor is someone who is in a committed relationship with someone else, but at the same time, she has had a thing in secret for Freddie for very many years now. So she definitely has feelings for him, but at the same time, she's in a relationship, so it's kind of a forbidden situation to be together. And she's in a relationship with someone who is very much putting her down. He's gaslighting her. He's making her feel insecure about her sexuality. And both of them are just dealing with different sets of trauma, with different sets of difficult situations at home or in their relationships. And the two of them form a bond and a friendship over just their mutual kind of they feel comfortable with each other. Let me put it like that first. So they really feel comfortable with each other. They sense a connection together and they feel comfortable with sharing certain things to each other. So I think that that's what really worked in their benefit, that they struck up friendly conversations first before they moved on into their attraction for one another. So yeah, I really did appreciate that Peyton Corinne does a very good job of representation for certain things, so certain topics within books. At the same time, she takes very good care with developing the relationships in a very gradual way, which I also very much appreciate. But I just didn't feel the same connection that I did with the characters from the first book, and that's why I gave this one 4 stars. Now, the next book, I think I cannot do the synopsis any justice. So I'm just not going to go into it too much. This one is called Wings of Starlight by Alison Saft. I gave this one 3 stars, and it's my own fault. I think it's my own preference and my own kind of negligence when it comes to this world, because I don't know of it. I didn't know of it until I actually read this book and then started to read through comments on Goodreads about it. So there's this, I think it's Disney based, I'm not sure. I'm very ignorant when it comes to things that I know nothing about. So there's this place called Pixie Hollow. It's supposedly a very popular kind of a thing with fairies. And I think it's like a cartoon or like a Disney movie. I don't know what it is, but like people know of it. I didn't know of it. And essentially, the story is developed in this world. We've got the princess of the warm Pixie Hollow kind of realm, and her romances with the Winter Warden, who is a fairy from another realm. And there is something going on with the balance between their realms. Something like a disease that is kind of like nightmares that are popping up for everyone, has started to haunt their realms, and they're trying to fight against that. It's a very fairy tale like young adult fantasy romance. but it's not for me. It's just not, I'm not the intended audience for this book. That's why I gave it 3 stars. I think that maybe if you like this specific kind of fantasy romance, and specifically YA fantasy romance, then it might be for you, but it just wasn't for me. Now, the next one was interesting because what I'd heard about it is that it's a fantasy, like a romantasy that is very much reminiscent or inspired by Peaky Blinders, the series. I love Peaky Blinders. When I heard that there is a book that is inspired by Peaky Blinders, I immediately wanted to read it. So when I picked it up, I I had some thoughts on it. I didn't feel the setting of Peaky Blinders in this book. I don't know what it was. I did see some influences in terms of the styling of the characters and the fact that it's based in an industrialized kind of a urban world. Essentially, we've got a heroine who is part of this very prominent family, and her father passes away and passes down their railroad company to her, but it's in kind of almost like a bankruptcy kind of a state. So she needs to marry someone who can help save their company. And she firstly is betrothed to someone who she doesn't really want to marry. And the night before she's supposed to get married to this rich guy who can save their company, she goes to this bar and she meets this guy with whom she hits it off right away. This guy turns out to be a guy from another prominent family who actually is our love interest. He hears about her predicament. So, on the next day, when she's supposed to sign the contracts for getting married with this other guy, he made her a different proposal to marry him instead. So this is a marriage of convenience, a bit of an enemies to lovers situation. So even though they started off on the right footing in the bar, once she finds out who he is, they kind of bump heads because they have a history, or at least their families have history with one another. So this is a bit of an enemies to lovers kind of a situation. And the magic system in this fantasy world is quite interesting. The hero has quite prominent and interesting powers, while the heroine doesn't seem to have any powers. So it's an interesting power dynamic between the two of them. And I don't know, I really did enjoy it. I gave it 4 stars, but I just had kind of other expectations from it when I heard that it's inspired by Peaky Blinders. I don't know why, but I just had different kinds of things that I was expecting to see in it. But now that I've kind of thought about it and have sat with what it actually is, I did really enjoy it. I gave it again 4 stars. So I think I'm going to be continuing on with the series. Next up, I read a book that I did not enjoy too much, unfortunately. The book is The Love Simulation by Etta Easton. This is a new release by this author. Last year, I read the debut novel by Etta Easton, and I didn't enjoy that one at the time because I had some issues with the way that the heroine was portrayed. And I just thought to myself, I'm going to give this author another chance to see if it's just that specific, those tropes that influence the progression of the heroine's kind of plot line to develop in that way, and that maybe I'm going to enjoy something else by this author. But unfortunately, in this book, we had a very similar kind of a setup where the heroine was not my favorite. I could not root for her because of the way that she was behaving with the hero. So we've got a heroine who is the vice principal of this school, and she very desperately wants to build or rebuild the library at the school, but the principal doesn't see the point in that. He thinks that it's better for any invested money that they get to invest it in like the football field and other kinds of activities that might draw more people to sign up their kids in their school. She obviously doesn't agree with that. So what she does, she hears about this competition through one of these other teachers. And this competition has to do with participating in a 6-week trial in this simulator that is supposed to be simulating going to Mars. And a couple of the teachers are supposed to sign up for this simulator kind of a thing for the summer. And if they perform well during the simulation, they can win this grand prize that she can eventually invest in the library. So she wants to participate in that. And the respective hero of our story is the principal's son, who is also a teacher at the school. He's the chemistry teacher. And he decides to participate with her in the simulation. So they have this forced proximity, they have this rivalry with one another, because essentially she feels like his father wants to push his son to take over her position. So this is where the story gets tricky for me, because I feel like the heroine had such animosity for the hero. She was the whole time trying to find reasons for herself of why he's a bad guy, or like why she shouldn't have feelings for him. And she had so many prejudices against him and so many ideas about him without having actual conversations with him about what she's thinking about. So it felt like there's not a lot of unnecessary animosity against the hero. And instead of getting to know the hero, we just got to know how many prejudices the heroine had against the hero. It was just a weird kind of a setup. So I just didn't love the character development of this book. The idea behind it with the simulator was great. And that's why I was enticed to pick this book up, and also the previous one up. But unfortunately, the execution is not. So this one I gave 3 stars, and unfortunately I don't think I'm going to be picking any other books up by this author because they don't seem to work for me. Now, fortunately, the next couple of books really did work for me. The first one being The Love Lyric by Christina Forrest. This is the third, and I'm not sure, but I think the final book within her sister series. I don't know what it's called. The first one was The Neighbor Favor. I really enjoyed that one. I enjoyed the second one that was like a Married in Vegas kind of a situation. And this one has to do with the third sister, who is a widow. She has a child and she's a devoted mom, but at the same time also a career woman. She works for this beauty company and she has this project with her company. She really needs to make it work. And there is this new brand ambassador for the products that they're going to be selling. And the brand ambassador is someone that she knows because her sister is working with him as well. He is an R&B star. His name is Angel. And he has had a thing for Iris since the first time that he laid eyes on her during this family gathering when he wasn't yet a very big name in the R&B scene, but he saw her then. He already kind of had certain feelings towards her, and now that he's going to be working with her, he definitely wants to make his move. She's a bit reserved towards getting into a relationship with him because obviously she's going to be working with him. She doesn't know how her company is going to react if she were to have a relationship with him. At the same time, she also doesn't really want to get immersed into this celebrity lifestyle. She has a child. She wants to keep her child safe from the spotlight. So there are certain things that are working against them, but at the same time, this forced proximity that they have and all these kinds of events and conversations that they're having with each other are just working against that plan that Iris has, essentially to stay away from him. She just can't really stay away from him, essentially. So the two of them have this amazing chemistry together, and he very much is a swoony kind of a hero. Obviously, he's an R&B singer, so when he's in love, the muse strikes. So essentially, Iris is his muse. He writes songs for her, and they're just so swoony. And I don't know, I just had a lot of fun with this story. I overall really enjoy Christina Forrest's writing. She writes in third person, and I don't mind it when she does that. I typically gravitate more towards first person narration, but with these books, I haven't had an issue with the third person narration, and that speaks volumes about the execution of the book. So I really enjoyed it. I gave this one 4 stars. Now, the next book is the follow-up book by Sarah Rash. The first one was The Nightmare Before Christmas. I gave that one 5 stars. It's a holiday themed book. So holiday meaning Christmas, but actually I think all the books within this series are going to be focusing on different kinds of holidays. So this one is called Go Luck Yourself, with St. Patrick's Day as a focus in terms of the holiday that is in focus within this plot. We've got the second prince of Christmas, Chris, who is having this identity crisis moment because his brother, who is the hero from the first book, is going to be taking over the Christmas court. And they find out that there is this spy situation going on. They're trying to figure out who has been spying on them and trying to steal Christmas magic from their realm. And he decides that he's going to be the one who is going to be spying back, who is going to be trying to figure out who's been trying to steal this magic. And he goes to the St. Patrick's Day court because he assumes that it's someone from their court who is doing the wrongdoings. And this is where he meets his love interest. Actually, he meets his love interest a bit earlier on, but essentially the love interest is the Prince of St. Patrick's Day's holiday realm, Lachlan. The two of them have an animosity between them because they actually know each other from college and they used to fight over the study room. And there's a lot of fun and banter and I don't know, just a lot of fun situations within these stories that Sarah Rash writes. I had so much fun with this book. I do have to say that I enjoyed the first book more than this one, maybe because I just love Christmas more than St. Patrick's Day, to be fair. But at the same time, really, the tropes within this one also worked for me a lot. And the two heroes are just hilarious together. And even though we've got a grumpy and kind of a, a rivalry born out of contempt between them, we still see that the Prince of St. Patrick's Day has this soft heart when it comes to the other hero, which is just so swoony. So yeah, I enjoyed this one as well, and I gave it 4 stars. Now, the next book, I didn't know anything about it. I just read that this one is a release by Bruce Lee's daughter, and she teamed up with Fonda Lee. And if you've watched my channel last year, I was obsessed with the Greenbone Saga books by Fonda Lee. So when I saw that Fonda Lee has helped Suzanne Lee write this book, I was immediately on board. I didn't want to know anything about the book. I just immediately dove in. The book is called Breath of the Dragon. It's a young adult fantasy book. And I wanted to say fantasy romance, but it's not a fantasy romance. It's more so a fantasy book. We've got a situation of a family living in this kind of conflict-torn realm. I think it's like a Chinese-based realm. And what is happening is this family, they have 2 sons and they are twins. One of them is breath-marked, the other one isn't. Now, breath-marked is meaning that they're touched by a dragon's magic. So they have these scales that show that they are breath-marked, that they have this kind of a magical ability. So one of them is breath-marked, the other one isn't. And the one who isn't really doesn't understand why his other brother is going to be moving away from them. So there are these people who, when they turn 6, I think, they come to fetch his brother to live in this academy so that they can train their abilities. He just doesn't get that, the second brother, and he does something that is forbidden in their realm that causes their family to get divided. So the mother and one of the twins who is breath-marked, they get moved to one city, while the father and our hero get moved to another city. And essentially, the story progresses from there, where we're going to be following the hero who isn't breath-marked and their desperate attempt to get reunited together. At the same time, he has this mission of getting into this kind of a competition to win this prize money that can get them to reunite with his family, but his father doesn't allow him to compete in this competition. So we've got a lot going on within this world, and I was just enjoying myself a lot when I was reading it. I don't know why, but it kind of a little bit reminded me of The Will of the Many by James Islington, maybe because of the competition style or plotline within the book. But yeah, I just really, really highly enjoyed this one, and I'll definitely be continuing on with the series. I gave this one 4 stars. And the last book that I read in the month of March is actually a reread. I very rarely reread books. I have to tell you, I always am on the lookout for new books. So it just doesn't make any sense for me to pick up books that I've read before. But this one actually, I was feeling a bit down because I had just DNF'd a book that I had spent 50% reading, and I was like, I don't want to pick up a book that may disappoint me again. So I just wanted to pick up a tried and true kind of a romance that I knew I'm going to enjoy. So I picked up Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. Now, Archer's Voice, I had read way back in 2015. So it's been exactly 10 years since I've read this book. And I know that it's a very beloved book in the romance community. And I just wanted to again feel this sense of amazing chemistry and emotional turmoil when it comes to these characters. So I picked it up. I have the audiobook for it. And again, I fell in love with it. So 10 years later, my opinion hasn't changed. It's still a 5-star read for me. And I just loved it all over again. I fell in love with Bree. I fell in love with Archer. I hated Travis's guts. So essentially everything that I felt about this story, I felt again now, 10 years later. I think that everyone who is a romance reader has read this book. But if you haven't, this book centers on our heroine who has gone through a traumatic loss, and she has been traveling, and she's now settled down in this small town for an unknown amount of time. And she is walking one day with her dog, and she sees this guy, and her bags from her groceries like get spilled on the floor, and he helps her out. And she's talking to him, feeling embarrassed about, having tampons on the floor and stuff like that. And she's like, it would help me out if you just tell me that it's okay, if you just speak to me and say that it's not an awkward situation for you too. But he just moves on, doesn't talk to her. And she's like, what's with this guy? I mean, can't he just be nice, And she starts bumping into him everywhere, and she starts to ask about him, like, what is his deal? And it turns out that this is Archer, who is kind of like the town pariah. He doesn't talk, so people assume that he's deaf. And she actually knows sign language because of her father. And she starts to have conversations with him in sign, and finds out that his story is quite different than everyone presents it to be in this small town. So there's a lot of trauma going on in this book. There's a lot of interesting kind of bonding between the two of them. He is a very sheltered kind of a person, and he's also a virgin hero, which is amazing to read about. For a difference, because typically it's the woman who is the virgin. So I really love that about this story. And I just fell in love with their love story all over again. The communication between them, all of the situations that they're thrown into, and their connection over the fact that they're the two people who understand each other the best is just the best. So yeah, this is another 5-star read for me. One of the few rereads that I'm doing. But yeah, I love that I picked it up again. All right, my dear friends, these were all the books that I managed to finish in the month of March. Let me know if you've read any of the stories and what you thought about them down below. Also, let me know what you've been reading in March and what you've been loving as well. And let's see what April will bring. I don't know what kind of books I'll be in the mood for. There's a lot of amazing new releases that are coming out in April, so I'm sure that I'm going to be picking those up as well. And I think in the near future, I may do another like new releases. Are they worth the hype, or should you pick them up or not? Kind of a video that you may see on my channel soon. And I hope to see you in the next one. Have a wonderful, marvelous day. Happy reading. Take care. And